Welcome to Positively Nerdy number 103, comic reviews for late September 2013.
As you know, I'm quite keen on comic books, especially the ones about superheroes.
It says that they insist on outside opinions.
What kind of opinions?
Well, your kind not to put too fine a point on it.
Why would they care what we think?
Hey, where are all my comic books?
Oh, those dreadful things. I gave those away.
Man, I don't even have an opinion.
Well, you gotta have an opinion.
I've spent my entire life doing nothing but collecting comic books. And now there's only time to say, life well spent!
Welcome back, everyone, to a brand new episode of Positively Nerdy and the latest installment of the comic review segment that we do here twice a month-ish, usually. Usually it's twice a month. I think next month we got 5 Wednesdays, and one of them is the last day of the month or something. So it's going to be a little weird next month. But we're not worried about next month. We're worried about this month. And this month is chock full of some good stuff. We got a pretty decent stack of comics to get through today. And no DC whatsoever. And rather than talk about it when I would normally talk about DC Comics, I'm just going to talk about it now. Everybody was super upset about the Villains Month thing. The covers, the way DC was treating retailers, the way DC was pandering to quote-unquote fans, all sorts of stuff. Everybody was bent out of shape about it. Everybody's going to say they're not going to buy comics, yada, yada, yada. And I didn't. I didn't buy a single DC... Well, I didn't buy a single New 52 comic. Batman 66, which we're actually not going to talk about today because I just don't like it, but it's for my own personal reasons. It's nothing against the comic. I feel that reviewing it would be doing it a disservice to people who actually do enjoy it. Anyway, and He-Man and stuff like that, and Vertigo isn't really DC, but it isn't. And apparently a lot of people, either there was a very, very vocal minority saying they weren't going to buy the comics and they were mad, or everyone is a liar, because the sales of the Villains Month so far, and of course we won't have final figures for another weekish or so, but they've been very, very good. And yeah, they've been, like I said, sales have been phenomenal for DC on these books, and I'm not sure if people just can't resist the gimmick, or, again, it was just a loud minority that was complaining about them, or what, but I don't quite get it, but that's life, right? Let's move on. And let's move on to, from Red 5 Comics, Bodie Troll, number 3. Bodie Troll is back after a little bit of a hiatus. I think it was supposed to come back next week, or maybe a few weeks, or last week, or a few weeks ago, or last month. I'm not sure exactly when it was supposed to come out, but I know it was a bit of a delay. And in this issue, Bodie teams up, more or less, with a baby. Baby is the last thing in the world that Bodie Troll should be in charge of, and yet that's exactly what happens in this hilarious episode. That might be the best one yet. Either that, or I'm just getting used to Bodie and the world he lives in. I'm not sure which is if this one is just better quality, or if I'm finally just, with 3 issues now, I'm sinking into this world that Bodie lives in, and am able to embrace everything a little more. And this world that Bodie lives in keeps getting more and more bizarre as we go on. This one, the town is in the middle of a drought, a massive drought. Crops aren't growing, but there's random objects falling from the sky. We have couches, we have wheelbarrows, we have carts, we have anchors, all sorts of weird ridiculousness falling from the sky. And again, Bodie comes across this baby who's extremely heavy, a bit of an eater, and definitely a bit of a pooper. And that all kind of comes into play, and how Bodie is able to basically use the baby's talents, let's say, to his advantage. And then about halfway through the issue, I'm starting to wonder where Charlie is, where the fairy godmother, whose name I can't remember at the moment, with the magic spatula, where they're at. And of course, as soon as I start wondering where they're at, they do, of course, pop up, because it's kind of Bodie's only source of recurring characters. And then it just kind of spirals downward to there into just this depraved insanity, and I kind of loved every minute of it. Again, the world that Bodie lives in is just absolutely phenomenal. And of course, we have creator Jay Fawcett to thank for that. I really like, and I've liked it from the get-go, but I'm starting again to notice these things a little more, how crowded every panel is, and I don't mean that in a bad way. There's so much going on, and there's so many background details, and the characters occupy so much of every panel, even if it's a a medium shot or a close-up or whatever it is, the character, there's just not a lot of extra room in these panels, and even when there is, it's purely intentional, and wow. Really, really loving Bodie Troll. If you guys have missed out on this at all, I know that the first 4 issues, this is number 3 of 4, will be collected into a trade, so definitely going to want to run out and catch that one. But I would think, I know number 1 was hard to come by now, 2 probably is by now as well, so definitely keep your eyes peeled for the trade, and trust me, I'm going to let you guys know when that trade does come out. Alright, now Bodie Troll is kind of, for me, kicked off this kind of an all-ages renaissance for me personally. And certainly there are a lot more all-ages books out there, which I think is great, or maybe I'm just becoming more aware of them because, again, Bodie Troll's kind of reopened my eyes to all these all-ages books that are out there. So another one that caught my eye in previews a couple of months ago, and the first issue came this time around, is Farlaine the Goblin. Now, I thought it was Farlaine the Goblin, but I was corrected numerous times, not only in researching the book, but in the book itself. I always appreciate when the characters in the book, through dialogue, will tell you how to pronounce their name. Usually another character in the book pronounces it wrong, what have you, but there's some way for them to get the pronunciation across through the context of the story, which I always like. Immediately what comes to mind when I think of that is Shadows of the Empire, the Star Wars novel with Prince Caesar, and the droid mispronounced it or something like that, and he was commenting on it. So there's that to consider. Total digression. Farlaine the Goblin is an all black and white. It's 50 pages long. It's $5, but you're definitely getting your $5 worth. It's kind of done, I want to say, like letterbox style. I don't know if that's correct. It makes it feel like you're reading a comic strip because of the long and narrow pages, and usually the panels, meant to fit in the long, narrow pages. I don't quite like it as much as I enjoy Bodie Troll and some other all-ages books. I think Farlaine is a wonderful character, relentlessly optimistic, which I love, and is great in an all-ages book to have a character like that. I love his, power set, for lack of a better word. He's a wood goblin or a forest goblin, so he cares for trees and can grow trees, and that'll, get him out of various predicaments and situations. And he's kind of wandering the lands of this world he lives in to find a new home. And as the book starts off, they let you know that the many odd lands of Wug, in search of a forest to call his own, he only has 10 lands left. And this is an exploration of one of those lands, and the idea being that each book subsequent will follow his journey into one of those lands. It was a little bit long, if I'm being honest. 50 pages was a little long, it felt like to me. It felt like a few things got a little redundant. The artwork is spectacular. I really kind of dug the black and white style. If you wanted to give this to a child, I don't know that they would get into it quite as much. Usually you would want, colors and all sorts of stuff like that. When he does the silhouettes, it's fantastic. The contrast of, it being a shadow and stuff like that. Very simple technique and nothing terribly original, but it's pulled off so well, and he uses it sparingly enough that it's noticeable and special every time he does it. Farlaine, like I said, I really love the character of Farlaine. I'm just not sure how I feel about this particular issue. That being said, I will definitely get issue number 2 when it comes out. Actually comes out sometime in October, I believe. And then book 3 is not due until December, and then there's subsequent books will depend on the sales and buzz that these first 3 get. So like I said, I was a little lukewarm in the first issue, but I certainly want to see the story continue. I certainly love this character, so I will be doing everything I can to kind of spread the word and champion this book, and hope that we can get issues beyond number 3 coming our way, because I think this is a delightful little character that deserves a little more attention. So brace yourself, people. I'm going to be giving him all the attention I can muster. And we kind of close out the all-ages portion unintentionally before things take a dramatic turn with the next few issues. Of another all-ages book that's kind of the stalwart champion at the moment, in my opinion, of an all-ages book. What an all-ages book can do and what an all-ages book should be. And Bodie Troll and Farlaine are great examples, and they owe a lot, in my opinion, to Mouse Guard, which we're going to talk about. Mouse Guard, Legends of the Guard, number 3 of 4. Mouse Guard, of course, written by and created by David Peterson, and we have 3 stories in this, as we do in all of our Legends of the Guard stories. The first one, The Mouse Generals, by Eric Canet, maybe? Colors by Scott Keating. Eric Canet is a creator who's done a lot of work at DC and Marvel. Most recently did a story in the Rocketeer Adventures, and his story is kind of a great... Well, I don't think we ever had a Mouse Guard story this epic. In Peterson's work, which is always a little, his standard Mouse, fall, winter, Black X, are always a lot more methodical. They're slower paced purposely, and that's fine. There's great action and excitement, but this is a battle like we've never seen in a Mouse Guard book. And it's kind of an old tale, a little bit of Weasel War. I'm not sure if this is Weasel War or the onset of Weasel War, or exactly how tied into what Peterson has been hinting and getting to a lot in his ongoing work, his regular work, whatever you want to call it. The scope of this is just phenomenal, and it's basically the vanity of the guards' mice and how it transitioned over time. The ornate helmets they used to wear prevented them from escaping easily, things like that, and led to massacres and slaughters, and that's why the guards' mice now wear simple cloaks and have foregone the ornate designs. It kind of reminded me, in a very bizarre way, of things like Tales of the Jedi, because it was, like most Star Wars stories now, you have the 3 or 4 Jedi, if that, Sith and Jedi even, and they kind of represent part of a larger group of mice. And Tales of the Jedi books, the comic books, you had a lot of Sith and a lot of Jedi fighting, and the costumes and the fantasy elements were much more elaborate than they are in the quote-unquote current continuity of Star Wars, and that's exactly what the vibe I got from this first story in the Tales of the Guard. The next, When the Moles Are Around, by Charles Paul Wilson III, who is the man behind the Stuff of Legend. And if you are a comic fan or a toy fan, both, neither, good storytelling, whatever you like there, you should be reading Stuff of Legend. Phenomenal book. Series of books, I should say, comics, whatever. The second hardcover collection of that just got solicited, I believe, and the first one's already out there. Definitely check those out. They're great stuff. And this is kind of a Fox and the Hound type story, or at least that's the vibe I got, of a mouse who befriends a mole, and they as children they kind of played swords, dug holes, did all that fun stuff, and the mole would upturn homes and stuff as he would play with the mouse in the town, and so they basically cast the mole out and told him he had to take off. And this is all done also is kind of like an epic poem. It all rhymes. It's like something a minstrel would a tale a minstrel would tell, which I thought was phenomenal. The artwork is fantastic. Again, Stuff of Legend. If you're familiar with that, you know exactly what to expect here. Great stuff. And these evil, awful mice invade this town, and there's not much left, and they warn that they'll be back to basically finish off the job. And they go back to their lair, I guess, and this lone mouse with his play wooden sword shows up and lets them know that he's come to put their bad deeds to their end. And they all laugh and step forward to fight this mouse, and then they all fall, very 300-esque panel, into a giant hole that had just been dug by the mole. He kind of dug it just high enough to not open the hole, and when all the mice stepped on it, they fell down into the hole, and of course the mole was now welcome in the town, and the two could play and remain friends to the end of their days, although apparently he did still upturn a house once or twice. Again, just another great story. Legends of the Guard, the first one was great, the second one keeps getting better. I said before that issue number 2 was my favorite so far. Issue number 3, as you can tell, I'm enjoying as well. Can't quite beat number 2, but it's making volume 2 appear a hell of a lot better than volume 1, and that's no knock on volume 1 at all. But anyway, last one. The Thief, the Stargazer, the Hunter, and the Tailor by Corey Godbeg. Not familiar with the man's work, but or at least I didn't think, but visually I recognized it absolutely, and it's definitely something that I've seen before. And this is a tale of 4 brothers, or 4 siblings, I should say, who are sent off to kind of find their own path and their own destiny and their own journey. And they reconvene 4 years later, and how they are able to put what they learned in their time apart to use, and kind of how it strengthens their bonds. Their individual talents strengthen the bonds between each of them and allow them to accomplish these great deeds. And it was an amazing story. Really, really, like, kind of an epic kind of feel to it. A lot of narration, which helped, but then they kind of zoom in and let the characters talk when needed. Great story. Visually very cool. Very, very unique, as all of these Legends of the Guard stories are. So just loving it. Worth the wait every single time. All right, now it's time to put the kids to bed because the all ages portion of the show is over in a big, big way as we head over to Image Comics. And the second image number 1 of the month, or I should specify the second image number 1 of the month that I am reading, Rat Queens number 1. Written by Curtis J. Wiebe, art by Rock Upchurch. This is, bullet points, I guess, this is female skull kickers. The simplest way to describe it. I don't want to cheapen it by calling it skull kickers too much, but that gets your foot in the door. 4 female characters, very foul-mouthed, short-tempered, very much complementary to each other, but very combative with one another all at the same time. We have a very fantasy-esque setting, and they are one of 5 groups, basically locked in these dungeons and being given death sentence quests that will either kill them off so they can clear room out in the dungeon, or they will succeed and be granted pardons for their efforts. And the Rat Queens are tasked to clearing out the goblins of Hinman Cave. And, of course, they kind of head off. There's all this back and forth. They are very, very foul-mouthed young ladies, and swearing and saying inappropriate things and flipping off the other groups of prisoners. Hilarious stuff, actually. Just looking through the pages now, I'm laughing all over again. And there's this dark, shadowy ninja-type figure that's stalking throughout the book. He kills off one of the other groups seeking redemption, or I don't know if they're seeking redemption so much as being given a 1 in a million chance of surviving and not being in the dungeon anymore. And I just really, really like the dynamic between these characters. I think it's just fun to see an all-female group kind of in this setting and in this environment. Usually, Skull Kicker's brought in a female character and have used her really, really well. I'm trying to think. Female and fantasy, though, usually you end up with the short end of the stick. You're going to have a decent character here or there. The Lord of the Rings movies turned their female characters into good characters. Not necessarily the case in the books. But this is all females. We have male characters, obviously, but they are not a focus in this book at all. They kind of just come and go as they're needed to service the story or move it along, what have you. We get a brutal, violent cliffhanger, which I thought was fantastic. Giant troll with a giant warhammer, getting rid of the first of these shadowy ninja type characters in dramatic fashion. Foul mouth, inappropriate fantasy storytelling, just what's not to love. It was a blast from start to finish. And if you like Skull Kickers, you're looking for something more in that vein, or if you're a fantasy fan and there's not a lot of fantasy out there in your opinion, and you don't have delicate sensibilities, Rat Queens is definitely for you. I will keep reading this book, absolutely. Hooked from the first issue. Another Image series that I was hooked from the first issue on and finally has returned is Todd, the Ugliest Kid on Earth, number 5. Now, it started off as a 4-issue miniseries, and they announced part of the way through that miniseries that it was selling well enough and basically people were liking it enough that it was going to become an ongoing. And Todd, the Ugliest Kid on Earth, if you missed my reviews of the first 4 issues, is comic book depravity and inappropriateness at its best. And they cranked it up to 11 for issue 5 and what appears to be the foreseeable future for Todd and his insanely bizarre cast of characters. Now, we start off, I wasn't entirely sure I was going to dig it. There's a lot of satire, a lot of very cheap shots at comic books in general, which is what's always weird to me when they make fun of comic book culture in a comic book, like, biting the hand that feeds you kind of mentality. At least that's how it felt at first. And then there's a lot of shots taken at Marvel, and you guys should know by now how I feel when Image takes their shots at Marvel. But it's still funny at the same time. What are you going to do? So I decided to lighten up, and I basically started reading over again. I really got about halfway through it and was like, you know what? I love this series so much the first time around. I don't know why I'm not liking it. Maybe I just need to loosen up. And I do love, too, that at the Marvel panel, the Matt Fraction as character is Matty %. I thought that was hilarious. Anyway, this is, again, it's all of the depravity and inappropriateness and, most importantly, hilariousness of the first 4 issues, again, cranked up to 11. Todd now has a sister, which we won't get into all that. It's a little bit convoluted. We have real-world characters. Tom Wolfe and Charlie Rose are characters in this book. Charlie Rose, I'll just read the description at the beginning. Legendary broadcast journalist. With 4 network shows, Rose burns the candle at both ends, and that candle's flames are born of hellfire. Yes, and this Charlie Rose is a demonic cult leader, essentially. PBS is just a front for his demonic activities. It's all very, very depraved and bizarre. Tom Wolfe is the newest writer at Marvel Comics because they need somebody to reach this generation. Kids aren't reading comics, and it's up to Tom Wolfe now to figure out how to get kids to read comics. He's got a handle on every generation except the current one, and he actually bumps into Todd at this convention where the Palmiotti Awards are going on. The Palmiotti Awards are considered a sham because Amanda Conner wins every award, even Best New Male Character. Hilarious stuff there. Like I said, there are a lot of shots taken at other companies and other people and other creators, but it's all hilarious. And Todd gives Tom Wolfe some great advice that he thinks books should be 50 pages shorter and life should be 20 years longer, which I don't get at all, but at the same time it's hilarious. I chalk Todd up to another Image book that's just a little bit hard to describe sometimes. It's delightful. Todd's, again, I used the phrase relentless optimism earlier, and that's with Farlaine the Goblin, and that's exactly the case with Todd. I just love how happy-go-lucky this kid is, and how completely screwed up the world around him is. His mother, his father, his new adopted sister, the quote-unquote celebrities being used in this book. I don't get or know or how you come up with the idea of making Charlie Rose this insane satanic cult leader. I love how they turn the PBS logo into this demonic thing. The cops, the idiot cops from the first 4 issues are still here. There's demonic possession taking place, demonic kidnapping taking place, as appears Todd's little sister is not going to be around very long. Wow. Just absolutely phenomenal stuff. Love it, love it, love it. Glad Todd is back. And if you missed him, get that first trade and go pick up number 5. Get all sorts of caught up, and you will not regret it, I promise. Again, as long as you don't have any issues with political incorrectness and all sorts of stuff like that. Moving on and finishing up Image Comics this week is Saga number 14. Saga number 14, if I still did top of the stack, which was my choice before for best comic of the week, would have it by a landslide for 1 page, 5 panels of pure, just heartfelt amazingness. Brian K. Vaughan, the writer, Fiona Staples, the artist, both deserve a lot of credit on this page. The dialogue, what's happening in it is just so real and wonderful and emotional in this massive, bizarre sci-fi story. Fiona Staples' artwork just sells it completely. And if you've been reading Saga, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't been reading Saga, this isn't going to spoil anything. But a slave girl, now named Sophie, is sitting with Lion Cat. He's curled up around her, essentially. She's sitting in this beautiful meadow, and she's saying out loud, "My name is Sophie. I'm 6.5 years old. I can stand on one leg for a real long time," which is totally something a 6-year-old would say. "My favorite color is blue-green. I want to be a doctor or a dancer when I grow up." I love how kids, when they say what they want to be when they grow up, sometimes it's 2 complete opposite ends of the spectrum. And finally, she gets really, really sad and says, "I am all dirty on the inside because I did bad things with..." And then the Lion Cat cuts her off and says, "lying." And then she hugs Lion Cat. Now, if you haven't been reading Saga, you don't know, Lion Cat can always tell when someone is lying. And I just love this scene with this cute, sweet, innocent little girl who used to be a slave, and not a good kind of slave. And no, like there is, but the worst kind of slave. Let's put it that way. And the sweet quietness of the scene and this madcap, epic science fiction story that they're telling. This quiet little scene made me cry. I absolutely adored this page. If I could nominate like best page of the year, this would probably be it. And it requires a lot of context, but at the same time, I don't know that it does because it's just so simple and straightforward in its approach. And there's a lot of other amazing things that happen in this issue, but after reading that one page, like I said, I cried, and I just, wow, just the simple little elegance again. And I can't overstate it. I'm going to keep saying it, but this massive story with all these things going on, and these galactic complications and ramifications, and all these new characters that keep getting introduced. These yellow journalists, an old school term for you youngins out there, that showed up in the last issue are back in this issue. I love these guys right away. They're just phenomenal characters. I'm very excited about the increasingly bizarre dynamic between Gwendolyn and what's his face? What the Will? Jeez, I couldn't even remember his name there for a second. Terrific. Marco and Alana and Marco's mother and the baby, not Gwendolyn. What is the baby's name? I can't remember what the baby's name is. At the author's house. Just Prince Robot the Fourth, his cameo at the end to let us know kind of where this fits in the story. Just a phenomenal, just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful stuff from Saga, as it is with every single issue. But man, that page just got to me so bad. Just this sweet, innocent little girl who was totally reassured that she's got a new lease on life thanks to one little word from the Lion Cat. I just, like I said, wow. I keep talking about it. We keep stumbling and mumbling because I'm actually trying not to get worked up about it again as I share it with all of you. Wow, good stuff. Really good stuff from Saga this time around, as it always is, but sometimes they can still surprise you. We talk a lot about, just last digression before we move on, I talk a lot about those comics that they're always so good that it's sometimes hard to talk about them. Like, what do I say about this book this time around? Because it's still just really, really good. Saga is really, really good every week, but there's still something worth mentioning and talking about. And in this instance, it was that page. And holy cow. So, wonderful, wonderful stuff there. All right, let's go on to IDW for a quick stop with Star Trek, number 25, The Kittimer Conflict, 1 of 4. Well, that's going to get me excited. And then I open up the page and see we still have Irfan Fajar on art. Not a big fan, although it's better. Again, I mentioned last time around that he got better with each issue, and he's a little bit better here. Still not very good, in my opinion. Still not what I want in this Star Trek comic. Artwork aside, the caption boxes and the word balloons, unfortunately, the only word I can think of to describe them is obnoxious. Absolutely obnoxious. I don't know if it's the contrast to the art style or the fact that they're way bigger than they need to be. It is a lot that they're way bigger than they need to be. But they don't fit in with the art style at all. They're huge. They're so bright and big and obnoxious, and it's distracting. It's incredibly distracting. So it's hard to focus on the story, which is a good one. I kind of like what they're doing with this. Section 31 is trying to pit the Romulans against the Klingons, and that's all delightful and awesome. And we get some more Klingon cameos. I believe we've seen Kang before, and now we get Kor, I believe, is the Klingon we meet. And is it Kor? Yes, it's Commander Kor. The Klingons do all have the piercings in the ridges. Apparently that's a Klingon thing now in this world, which, again, you can get into why that would change in a world that's only affected by this, that, and the other thing. But what are you going to do? I kind of like the Klingons in this new world for the most part. The Romulans in this new world, I'm not so sure on yet. They're a little mysterious still, but isn't that good? Isn't that what we want in our Romulans? I really... I thought they were kind of forcing the issue that Klingons should hate Kirk in this reality too. Obviously, he kind of led the charge, baited by Khan in the new movie. But, spoiler, sorry, a little late on that. Anyway, he... in the old continuity, whatever you want, in the Prime Universe, whatever, Kirk was hated by Klingons with a passion. There's few humans in the world that Klingons hated more than Kirk. And in this one, we haven't quite been given a reason. The Klingons haven't quite been given a reason to hate him as much as they do, but they do, and they kind of force that issue. And there's a scene where there is not a Klingon on my world every Klingon knows your face, Captain Kirk. thought that was a little forced to kind of rush that issue a little bit. I can't stand the art, and more importantly, I can't stand the lettering. You have a very specific art style with Fajar. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm sorry. And it's possible to make the lettering fit that. You don't have to do this standard bright white black word giant balloons on a painted style like this, because again, Fajar's artwork is better than it's ever been, and honestly, in my opinion at least. But it's just not what I want in the series, and that's fine. I can live with, it's just not for me. What I can't live with is this obnoxious lettering, and I can't remember the last time I talked about lettering, good or bad. And this is just bad. It's obnoxious. It's like not even an all ages comic. It's like a little kid's comic, and that's just not what you want at all. As mentioned before, no DC this week, so we're going to jump right on over to Marvel and finish up this arc of Savage Wolverine. Savage Wolverine number 8. This arc with the Hand and the Kingpin and Elektra and Craziness and Awesomeness and Joe Mad art. That's all you need to know. Joe Mad's art is phenomenal. This is written by Zeb Wells, who I think is crafted a very, very good story. But ultimately, the story here is Joe Mad's artwork, and wow, it's terrific. We get a little bit of heartbreak with. We found out at the end of last issue that they weren't resurrecting Bullseye. That was just a ruse to bring Elektra in. They were actually resurrecting Wilson Fisk's wife, and she was trying to kill him, and he was trying to. If there's some little bit in there, let me. If there's a little bit of you left in there, let me know. And she goes to attack him, and he kills her again, basically. And he finds out that she didn't attack him; she was attacking the assassin behind him that was sneaking up on him, and he had actually ended up killing his wife all over again, who had kind of, again, there was something left in this reanimated person, and he had his heart broken all over again, which actually was it hit me a little harder than I thought it would. Not quite like Saga, but for Savage Wolverine, didn't expect that. We get to see Wolverine completely cut loose. These guys from the Hand are trying to dig into Wolverine and find out what makes him tick, and he goes totally Wolverine berserker on this guy, and then pulls back at the last minute, says he won't kill him, and they call him an honorable man, and Wolverine says, looks like you guys don't know anything, and then he kind of storms back to Avengers Tower, and is hanging out with Spider-Man. And as we were reminded at the very beginning, this story takes place a while back, like at least before last October, so don't get a lot of sorts about continuity, which is nice to have just a story, and to have Spider-Man kind of want to pal it up with Wolverine, which I thought was kind of cool. Fun story, phenomenal artwork. That's what you want in a Joe Mad illustrated comic. And Zeb Wells, again, great handle on dialogue. I really like the way he handles. Usually Spider-Man is when I'm reading Zeb Wells, but I think he's got a pretty good handle on Wolverine from what I saw in these last 3 issues. So good on him for that. And goodbye to Savage Wolverine, because I was just in it for the Joe Mad art, quite honestly. Let's talk about Uncanny Avengers, finally. Number 12. Now, I don't know what it is about Uncanny Avengers. I constantly am forgetting to order it. So I had to go back and pick up 10 and 11 from my local comic book store, which is great to go back in there. I really love going in there. It's just with DCBS's prices, I can't afford to go in there. But anyway, so we last left off with the revelation of the new 4 horsemen of the Apocalypse, or in this case, the Apocalypse Twins. And that was the resurrected Grim Reaper, Banshee, Daken, and Sentry. And in the course of 10 and 11, and now in 12, we kind of realized that these guys were not chosen at random, and obviously they have personal connections to people, and they're able to knock them off balance and take them by surprise and mess with emotions, and in the case of the Sentry, just kind of get rid of the strongest member, aka Thor. And specifically in issue number 12, we have some characters dealing with a little bit of a dilemma. The Apocalypse Twins have offered Wanda the opportunity to use her powers, along with an amplification from Wonder Man's powers, to basically transport all of the mutants to Jupiter and terraform it into their world. The only way that humans and mutants are going to work is if they're separated. And Scarlet Witch has decided that she's going to take them up on their offer. She just needs to convince Wonder Man to go along with her. All of this, we get a lot of back and forth. Wanda Man. See what happens when you put characters like that together. Wanda and Wonder Man, or Wanda and Simon. Let's go with that. Simon is desperately in love with Wanda. Wanda does not feel the same way. This is something that Remender, who is the writer, I should mention, and Salvador Larroca is our artist for this issue. Great stuff, by the way, from Larroca. We'll get into that in a little bit in a minute. Where was I with Scarlet Witch? She doesn't feel the same way. That's something Remender's been setting up. That's where I was with that. And she's trying to convince him that this is what needs to happen. Whether she's doing it on purpose or not, she's definitely playing with his emotions. I don't know that she's doing it on purpose. I think she's too wrapped up in her own emotions to be manipulating someone else's. With the whole No More Mutants thing, and mutants already hate her. Now she has a chance to save them, she feels. Don't think you should be trusting the Apocalypse Twins, but what are you going to do? And I really, really like all of this. Reading 10, 11, and 12 back to back to back was phenomenal. And we're going to talk about Marvel's real event in a minute. But again, this just feels so much like an event. And I want this to be the event more than the event that is going on, which is Infinity. Because it's so personal. And it's characters and situations and bad guys that we all already know. So much of Infinity relies on either brand new characters or brand new villains, the builders and the architects and blah, 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 blah. Sure, we got Thanos running around too, but he's kind of secondary to what's going on with Infinity right now. And I'm all of a sudden I'm talking about Infinity more than I'm talking about Uncanny Avengers. And then the crux of this, as it appears, at least to the Apocalypse Twins, that Wanda is about to turn Simon to her way of thinking. The other thing going on in this whole thing is Kang, far into the future, is somewhat not at all concerned with the Apocalypse Twins and they've escaped and that they've gone into the time stream. This is all exactly how he planned it and how he wanted it to be. And then literally his world starts crumbling around him, which I thought was a great visual, because what the Apocalypse Twins are doing is destroying everything that Kang has built and worked for across the time stream. And now, again, in the far future, I think it was like 41, 45, his world, again, quite literally, and now I'm being repetitive, I'm sorry, is crumbling around him. And again, just great stuff. Great to see Kang get put on his ass a little bit. Always fun there. He's reached out to Captain America for help. Captain America, Havoc, and Wasp are running around in this issue kind of doing their own thing. They run into Banshee, and they are trying to get to the Apocalypse Twins before it's too late, because they have apparently decided to side with Kang, and not so much that they want to help him, but anytime somebody like Kang would ask for help, it's worth paying attention to, kind of thing. So again, there's a lot of different things going on, a lot of characters that we're familiar with. We didn't get a lot of the Wolverine, Rogue, Thor stuff. Again, Daken playing a big part of that as one of the resurrected horsemen. Great stuff happening in these issues, and I like it a lot more than Infinity, which we'll finally talk about properly here. Infinity Part 3 of 6. Now, what we have here, we have the giant battle out in space with pretty much every single Avenger that's ever lived, battling the Builders and the Architects, along with the Shi'ar Empire and the Kree and all these other armadas and races and everything else. And then back toward Earth, not on Earth proper, we have Thanos wanting tribute from the Inhumans, and he wants them to kill every Inhuman between the age of 16 and 22 as tribute. You do this for me, and I will leave your world alone. And Black Bolt figures out that, or knows, that the reason Thanos wants this done is he's trying to kill his son. And he wants the Inhumans to do it for him. Or maybe he just doesn't quite know who it is, because as we saw in the Thor miniseries, Thanos miniseries, we definitely saw Thanos sowing his wild oats, as it were. So he's definitely got some kids running around, and he doesn't quite know who or what or where's going on. The Architects and the Builders kind of lay waste to everybody and then start demanding surrenders. The Centurions, the Chameleons, the Kree homeworld all bow and pledge obedience to the Architects, or the Builders, excuse me. So that brings Ronan out of the fight. Ronan, the Supreme Intelligence has surrendered, so he has to go back to the Kree homeworld and very symbolically surrender and turn over his hammer and all that fun stuff. And it's kind of looking dire, looking dramatic. And Captain America lets all of them know, he's like, you guys just aren't used to being the underdogs. There's still a way to make this work. And they come up with this giant misdirection plan, which I thought was great. And they start hacking systems and turning their own ships against them, and a lot of really awesome, gigantic space battles. A lot more fun in this issue than we've seen so far in this event, and everything is so head heavy and weary and woe is me and the world's coming to an end and there's just not a lot of fun to be had. But this one was as close to it as we're going to get, it looks like. We get some Illuminati stuff going on, some of the Secret Avengers, Luke Cage's team, some of that action going on, and Thor, or Thanos. Why do I keep wanting to say Thor? Thanos has been, after Black Bolt refused his request, imagine that, deciding not to slaughter a good chunk of his population for no reason, comes to Black Bolt's throne room, and no one is there. No one is in Attilan anymore. They've all been transported away, and Black Bolt is the only one left. And Thanos gives him his ultimatum one last time, and Black Bolt screams emphatically no. And at the same time, Lockjaw and Homeboy down below, what's his name? Maximus the Mad, apparently. The Bent Builder, Maximus the Mad, yada, yada, yada. They set off a device with Lockjaw teleporting him away at the last second that basically lays waste to Attilan. Attilan? I think it's Attilan, but I don't know. And that's our big cliffhanger, is Black Bolt's voice combined with this device setting off this massive explosion, obviously in the hopes of killing Thanos. I'm sure he'll be a little messed up, but I don't think they've killed him. But it's a very, very nice cliffhanger, and I'm so lukewarm on Infinity. I really like the Inhuman Thanos stuff more than anything else, and the Inhumans are characters I've been familiar with for a long time because they were one of my dad's favorites when I was a kid, so I've seen them. I've known them visually for a very long time, and, they pop up in Fantastic Four all the time, but I've not read a lot of dedicated Inhuman stuff, so some of the relationships and things like that I'm a little not as familiar with, but I really like them as a group and as characters in general. So it's cool to see them and cool to see a character like Thanos and just good stuff, but it's... I don't know, Infinity's just not really doing it for me. That's really too bad. Let's end, as we always do, with some Spider-Man comics. I'm thinking Ultimate Spider-Man comics. Ultimate Comics All New Spider-Man, or as we call it around here, Ultimate Spider-Man. Issue number 27. And this is, this is a big fun battle issue. And we ended last time with the cliffhanger of the Ultimate Taskmaster, which I applauded because it was a very cool reveal of a character that we'd never seen before, but we all are familiar with. The ultimization of a new character. The Ultimate Universe did that for a long time, and it got ridiculous and obnoxious, and it's nice to see that still have meaning, so to speak. And we start off, actually, though, we don't quite pick up where we left off, with Cloak and Dagger debating on infiltrating Roxxon, exposing all their secrets, and kind of turning them over to the court of public opinion kind of thing, and they're distracted by a giant explosion. And then we get our 9 minutes ago moment as we flash backward to Taskmaster laying waste to, not Jackpot, what is her name? Maybe it's Jackpot. Spider-Man and Spider-Woman. And Taskmaster is trying to unmask Spider-Man. The Venom sting goes off involuntarily, sends him back, and they're able to kind of start getting back into the fight, and we get a giant, awesome fight between Spider-Man, Spider-Woman, and Taskmaster. Jackpot kind of takes off. I can't really blame her on that one. They're fighting against Taskmaster. It seems like no matter what they do, he just keeps coming back stronger and stronger. And then it's revealed, not quite revealed, but he's probably a mutant, and either because of he's a mutant or because of something else, he basically is able to absorb powers and turn them back on the people who use him. So now he has a Venom sting, and now and whenever they use against him, he is able to fire right back at them. Bombshell, that's her name. Bombshell actually fires back at Taskmaster. This is after the Spider-Man and Spider-Woman have figured out what's going on with Taskmaster, but Bombshell hadn't quite figured that out yet. So while she fires at Taskmaster, he's able to fire right back, and these are the big explosions that bring in Cloak and Dagger. And then that's when we get the reveal that the Spider characters know what's going on because they're trying to get Dagger to stop firing her light daggers. They do manage to subdue him thanks to Cloak's powers. He's not quite able to reproduce that, apparently. And they all decide that they are now going after Roxxon. He has ties. Taskmaster has ties to Roxxon. Cloak and Dagger want to go after Roxxon. Spider-Man wants to go after Roxxon. Spider-Woman basically disavows her connection to S.H.I.E.L.D. and says, I'm going after Roxxon. I don't care what they're working on with S.H.I.E.L.D. under the table. This is not happening on my watch. And the 5 of them take off after Roxxon, which I thought was pretty cool, a little ending. And a very fun battle sequence in the meantime. David Marquez's artwork, phenomenal as always. Bendis's dialogue and back and forth, between his various characters, as spot on as it ever is. It was really, really cool to finally get an ultimate reveal, an ultimization of a character that we all know, being shown very, very differently, and have it mean something, have it be fun and exciting. So, well done there. Moving on to Scarlet Spider, the recently announced canceled Scarlet Spider, one of our last issues. It's issue number 22. Story by Chris Yost, written by Eric Burnham, art by a variety of people, unfortunately. I have to say I found the varying art styles extremely distracting. Didn't like that in the least. The story, the Kraven thing that they've been picking up on from Grim Hunt and even further back, and there's plenty of references to Kraven's Last Hunt, which is no surprise if you listened to us talk to Eric Burnham on the Radical Corner of Turtle Comic Talk a while back. He definitely had a copy of Kraven's Last Hunt close by at all times when he was writing this story, which, again, is very, very evident and very necessary, I would think, when you're writing any sort of Kraven story. And this is just Kane's battle with not only Kraven directly, but Kraven's family and his own demons and his own histories and everything else. He's battling, is it Anya? Is that her name? Kraven's daughter. And back and forth against her. She's trying to get him to kill her. And he realizes that's what she wants. That's exactly why he's not going to do it. And she tells him that all the people he knows and loves are dead, and it's all his fault. And she's trying very, very hard to get him to kill her, which is again what they need for this whole ritual and yada yada yada. And he takes her with him as he goes to find Kraven. Kane goes to find Kraven. Wow, we got Wanda and Wonder Man and Kane and Kraven. Anyway, and of course everyone is still alive, surrounded by lions and tigers and Kraven. And basically, he tells him straight out that this is to make the stakes high enough. If you do not fight me, you do not give me your best, you don't kill me, I'm going to kill everyone you love, or everyone you care about, however it is. And he actually says, "Yeah, I want to make sure the stakes are significant. I want your best fight. I want you to kill me." And then we get to be concluded. So apparently that's the last issue. I thought we had a couple more, but maybe to be concluded means that's it for the Scarlet Spider. So we'll see what happens there. Plenty of rumors and rumblings with Venom also being canceled. That's something in the ancillary Spider titles is all going to come to a head and get rebooted. We got Marvel Right Now coming up, or whatever it's called. Something stupid. The gimmick is stupid. I'm sure we'll get some great stories out of it, but the gimmick is dumb. That's right. It's not just a DC or a Marvel fanboy thing. Sometimes Marvel does stupid things too. So we'll see how that goes. Let's end on a high note. And it seems like we always end with Superior Spider-Man. This time around, it's number 18, written by Dan Slott, art by Ryan Stegman, and we get a lot more of Spider-Man 2099 trying to fix the time stream and deal with crazy new Doc Ock Spider-Man all at the same time. I really liked Spider-Man 2099 as a kid. It was the future, it was science fiction, and all wrapped up in a Spider-Man story. I am very surprised by how much I still love Spider-Man 2099. I really like the character. I really like his, I don't want to say his power set, but the abilities he has because of his suit and so on and so forth. I really like that he can't figure out what's wrong with Spider-Man. I really like his reluctance to basically help the bad guy because it'll preserve the time stream and it's what needs to happen. Really like everything that's going on at Horizon Labs. I really like how Doc Ock is starting to lose it as Spider-Man and pissing off everyone around him. I really, really love Ryan Stegman's artwork. I really like that all of these things that Slott has laid out are, not all of them, but a lot of what Slott has laid out is starting to pay off. I really like every single thing about this comic, quite honestly. This is one of my favorite comics being published right now. It's absolutely my favorite from Marvel being published right now. It's just so much fun, and it's so Spider-Man, which sounds blasphemous considering Peter Parker isn't around, but it's playing off of so many Spider-Man concepts. It's playing off the fact that, if Spider-Man's life is bad, Peter Parker's life is worse, or vice versa. The relationships are still all there. Everything that makes a Spider-Man book is still intact. It's just this new dynamic added to it. And I feel like I'm having to justify this book every time I talk about it, which is exactly what's happening here again now. And I don't mind that so much. It's just, it feels... I don't know why I have to feel like I have to defend this when it's selling phenomenally well. And people seem to like it, and most of the people bitching about it are probably still buying it, a la, Villains Month. So I don't know why I feel the need to defend it. I just do. And as a Spider-Man fan, again, everything that makes Spider-Man is here. It just has a different twist to it. And I'm really excited to see how this Horizon Labs thing pans out with Max Modell, and really excited to see what's going to happen with Spider-Man 2099, because he's kind of on his way to completing what he came to complete. But I have a feeling it's not going to, it's going to get better before it gets, or it's going to get worse before it gets better, kind of thing. Excuse me. And then you got Stegman's artwork on top of all that, making it really look pretty. So, again, just loving Superior Spider-Man, loving a lot of what is out there. I mean, we talked about superheroes, only from Marvel, granted, but we talked about superheroes, talked about Star Trek, so we got some IP talk going on. We talked about some great series from Image Comics, some great creator-owned stuff, very, very depraved and inappropriate stuff, but great stuff nonetheless. And we talked about some wonderful all-ages book, which again goes back to the creator-owned thing. Bodie Troll, Farlaine, Mouthguard, wonderful things. If you've got kids, you want to get them into comics, or they want to read comics, or you need something fun to give them, any one of those three would make a great choice. A lot of cool things going on in comics right now, and it's just fun to be able to kind of share with you guys every couple weeks. So that's going to do it this time around. Of course, you can always follow me on Twitter at PositivelyNerdy. Stop by PositivelyNerdy.com to find out what's going on there all the time. Quite honestly, there's always something going on over there. And until next time, guys, celebrate comics, celebrate your fandom.